earmuffs. For this project, I'm using white yarn as well as pink yarn, a headband, and a size 5mm hook. Now, of course, for this project, you can use whatever color yarn you like, as well as whatever type of yarn you like. But for me, this is the brand I'm using, and I believe it is a size 6. I would recommend that you use some sort of like thicker, softer, squishier yarn for this project. I would have used the same kind of yarn for pink, but this is all I had. And this is a size 4, 100% acrylic, as opposed to this one, which is size 6. And I'm not actually sure what it's made out of, but it's very, very soft and squishy. Anywho, so these are the two yarns I'm using. Again, you could use whatever you'd like. It's going to be the same exact steps. So the first thing we're going to do is actually make the pink part of this project, which is the center, the pink heart in the middle. So to make the heart, you're going to start off with a magic ring. So get your 2 fingers like this and grab the end of your yarn, then hold them together with your thumb like so. Make sure that there's some extra at the bottom. Wrap the yarn around your fingers and cross them over like this. Then you're going to grab your hook, put it underneath the area where it's under your middle finger, like so. Sorry, it's a little hard to do it with the camera in front of me instead of actually crocheting. Anywho, so make sure your hook is underneath your index finger like this. Then grab the yarn right here, because this yarn right here is still attached to the yarn ball. So you're going to hook it, wah. And then you're going to make sure it's not twisted. You're going to then grab the yarn that's attached to the yarn ball one more time. And you're going to chain 1, inside of that loop. And I know it's super confusing and super annoying, and that's why I try to avoid magic ring as much as possible. I can't stand it, but for this project, you need the magic ring, unfortunately. So from here, you're going to chain 2 more. 1 and 2. Then you're going to go into this magic ring that you make, basically just the loop, and you're going to crochet what is called a treble crochet, and that is yarn over twice, then through the stitch or the magic ring, yarn over, back through the stitch, yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over through 2 loops, and yarn over through the last 2 loops. And that's what a treble crochet is. Now, I actually can't stand treble crochet. I do not like it. I don't like the way it looks. I don't like making it. It's just, I don't like it. So I'm going to do my own thing. I'm not sure if this is actually like a thing or if I just made it up, because the way I learned how to crochet, I was 9 years old and I just sat in a room and figured it out. No tutorials, no books, no videos, no nothing, just figured it out. So this is what I like to do instead of a treble crochet. Again, you do not have to do this. You could just do treble crochet. But I like to yarn over once, go through the stitch, yarn over, back through the stitch, yarn over, chain 1, yarn over through 2 loops, then yarn over through the last 2 loops. And that's the stitch that I call triple crochet, but that's probably wrong, again, because I just taught myself how to do it. But that's what I'm going to be using instead of treble crochet. I just prefer doing that instead of like yarning over twice, and then like yeah. But just in case, so you're not confused, do treble crochet if that's what you're comfortable with. That's what you're supposed to do. But if you see me doing this stitch and calling it triple crochet, then that's at least you know what the heck is going on. So from here, you're going to make 3 of these. 3 treble crochets. I'm just going to call it treble crochet, but just so you know, I'm doing my own thing. Okay. So I'm going to make 2 more, and it's a little bit difficult again because of the magic ring. You kind of have to make sure that the magic ring doesn't fall apart. So just make sure that you're always grabbing this and making sure that it's not coming apart on you. Otherwise, you pretty much have to start over again. So I'm going to finish off this 3rd treble crochet. And from here, I'm going to make 3 double crochets. And double crochets, yarn over through the stitch, yarn over, back through the stitch, yarn over through 2 loops, and yarn over through the last 2 loops. And again, you're going to be making a total of 3 of these after you've made your 3 treble crochets. And then after you've made your 3rd double crochet, you're then going to make 1 treble crochet And then once you're done with that one treble crochet, you're going to pretty much do the same thing that we did but backwards. So treble crochet followed by 3 double crochets. So again, a double crochet is yarn over through the stitch, yarn over back through a stitch, yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over through the last 2 loops. And you're going to be making 3 of those. And after you've made your 3rd double crochet, you're going to go back to the treble crochet and you're going to make 3 of those. So it's yarn, well, I mean, my version is yarn over through the stitch, yarn over, back through the stitch, yarn over through 1 loop, yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over through the last 2 loops. But if you're doing the treble crochet, then that's when you loop it twice and then all that stuff that I showed you in the beginning. But anywho, after I've made my 3rd treble crochet, I finally get to close this ring up. And what you're going to do is you're just going to pull it like so. Yeah. And then to finish off this heart, we're just going to slip stitch into that center right there, into the magic ring. And voila, we have crocheted a little heart. And you could see why the magic ring is essential for this project, because if you don't have the ability to pull the center and make it tight, like with the magic ring, then you're just going to have a gaping hole in the middle of your heart, and that's not good. So that's why we use the magic ring. And this is what the project looks like so far. It's just a tiny little heart. Now, of course, we do need to build upon this. I eventually want it to be this size for my earmuff, so I'll go ahead and show you what to do to build upon it. So to build upon this cutie little heart, I'm going to start off by going into the first stitch of the new row with a single crochet. Then I'm going to make 2 double crochets inside of the next stitch, and we definitely want to keep increasing the number of stitches per row because we don't want our project to curl. So in order to increase, you just make 2 stitches inside of 1 stitch of the previous row, and that increases the number of total stitches in the new row. So after I made 2 double crochets inside of that 1 stitch, I'm going to go into the next stitch and make another set of 2 double crochets. Now I do want to increase the number of stitches, yes, but I don't want the project to increase so much that it starts to curl. So I'm just going to make those 2 double crochets per stitch for 2 stitches, and then in the next stitch I'm just going to make 1 double crochet and then another 1 double crochet, and then another 1 double crochet. And then once I get to the bottom of the heart, the little point right here, the point of the heart, I'm going to make a double crochet, then a treble crochet inside of the same stitch, and then another double crochet. And what that's going to do is that's going to help maintain that point right there at the bottom of the heart. And then from here, I'm just going to basically do again the opposite of what we did on the other side. So instead of starting off with making the 2 double crochets inside of 1 stitch for these 2 rows, it's just going to be 1 double crochet for these stitches. And then once I get to these ones up here, I'm going to make 2 double crochets inside of these stitches. So I'm going to make another 2 double crochets inside of that stitch as well. And then from here, we're going to end off the row by going into the center of the heart here and doing a slip stitch, and that's how you complete the row. And this is what my project looks like so far. If the middle starts to open up again, just grab that magic ring string that sticks out and close it up. Yes. So from here, we're just going to continue building upon this heart, and I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to start off the new row with a single crochet in the very first stitch, and then go by increasing the number of total stitches by making 2 double crochets inside of the next stitch, then another 2 double crochets into the following 2 stitches. So this is 2 double crochets inside of 1 stitch, and then the next stitch, it's going to be 2 double crochets. inside of that stitch. And then from here, I think I'll probably do another set of 2 double crochets inside one more stitch, and then the rest of them will just be 1 double crochet per stitch until we get to the bottom here. So I'm going to do one more set of 2 double crochets inside of one stitch, and then from here I'm just going to make 1 double crochet per stitch like so until I get to the point of the heart. And then once I get to the point of the heart here, I'm going to make 1 double crochet followed by 1 treble crochet, then 1 double crochet inside of the same stitch, and then I'm going to make just 1 double crochet per stitch until I get to the point where I need to make 2 double crochets per stitch, and then I will make 2 double crochets per stitch to make sure that I maintain that increase. And of course, if you see your project is curling, that means you need to increase the number of stitches per row. So just make sure that you make 2 double crochets in more stitches than I'm doing. And if your project starts to ruffle, that actually means that you're making too many stitches per row and you're increasing too quickly. So try to make less stitches per row if your project is curling. And yeah, but if it's staying relatively flat, maybe if it's curling a little bit, then that's still fine if you could still kind of flatten it out. But too much curling or too much ruffling, then that's bad. And then I'm going to end the row off with a single crochet and complete it with a slip stitch. And this is what my project looks like so far. And I'm just going to continue doing that until it gets to about this size. So a couple more rows of following that pattern, and then I'll show you what I do next. So after I've completed those extra rows, this is what my heart looks like. I did have to end it right here instead of right here where you would normally think I would just complete the loop, right? Well, for some reason, I have no idea why. This side is always bigger than this side, even though I'm doing the same thing on both sides. I don't understand it. So I just decided to end it here where both of the top of the hearts are the same size, and that's okay because when I put it together with the other heart that I had to make to complete it, it's going to match like so. See, I ended it on this side and then right here I ended it on this side, so it's just going to match perfectly. If you're wondering why I made 2, you actually don't have to do this. I just decided to make 2 hearts because the heart by itself has too many holes for my liking, so instead of having it show the cotton stuffing in between, I decided to make 2 hearts, and I'm just going to put them together like this, and it will be far less see-through. I mean, it's still kind of see-through, but definitely a lot less than by itself. And again, you don't have to do this. This is some extra step that I wanted to do. If you're using a thicker yarn like this one, you probably don't have to deal with this. Or instead of using a double crochet, if you use a single crochet, those stitches may be tighter, so you could avoid it looking so see-through. Or you could just do what I'm doing and make 2 hearts instead of 1 heart and sew them together. So I've made a total of 4 hearts for this project, but if you don't want to do this extra step that I'm doing, you just have to make 2 colored hearts for this project. So if you're going to do what I'm doing and make 2 of them like this, to attach them, all you need to do is slip stitch them together. So I'm going to flip it so it's like this, and then I'm going to go through both of the loops where I left over, and I'm going to slip stitch into the stitches on both of them, and then I'm just going to go all around the hearts and just continue slip stitching my way all around the hearts. So just going through each stitch and slip stitching through one, then through the other, and slip stitch. Through one, then through the other, and slip stitch. Through one, then the other, slip stitch. Through one and the other, slip stitch. through one and the other, slip stitch, through one and the other, slip stitch, and so on and so forth. And then now they're nice and attached, and you're just going to go all around the heart and attach them together. So now that we have our hearts, again, you're going to need at least 2 of them or 4 of them if you're going to do what I do, but as long as you have 2 of them, then we can move on to the next step, which is adding the second color. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and add the white yarn, and although this is a different size, I'm still going to use the same hook because it is the only hook I have. But if you want to switch out to a thicker or a bigger hook when you're using thicker yarn, then that would probably be helpful. But I'm just going to use the same hook and it's going to be totally fine. So from here, I'm going to simply start a single crochet as I normally would. And normally I would use the pink yarn, but I'm just going to go ahead and add the new yarn and finish out the single crochet with the new yarn, and then give a tug to the old yarn to secure it, and voila, the new color is now attached to the heart. Now from here, we don't want to continue the heart shape, we want to make it round now. So we're going to make a couple stitches differently. We're just going to use a single crochet all around here, and then once it gets to this area where it kind of dips in, again, we want to round out this project, so we're going to have smaller stitches with the single crochets right here, and then larger stitches on the bottom so it could round out like this. So I'm going to be using a single crochet here, and then I'm going to be using a double crochet right here to the point, and then at the point, or once it starts to get a little bit bigger, I'm just going to use single crochet. And then once it dips in right here again, I'm going to fill that out with a larger crochet stitch, which is that double crochet. And then once I get to this point again, where it starts to get bigger and round out, I'm going to use the smaller stitch again. And eventually that's going to make everything a little bit more even by adding that extra length with the larger stitch on this portion of the heart and then the smaller ones on this portion of the heart. So again, from here I'm going to the bigger portion of the heart, so I'm going to use these smaller stitches, which is a single crochet. So I'm just going to go into all the stitches with a single crochet, and it is going to be a little bit more difficult for me because again, I'm using thicker yarn and going into a smaller space because the yarn I used previously was thinner. So that's why I kind of like have to stab it to go into. So if you also have that issue, just know that's totally normal. But yeah, so I'm going to go in with that single crochet, and it looks like this so far. And I'm just going to continue on and figure out what to do once I reach that little dip. I'm still not sure if I'm just going to do single crochet or if I'm going to make a larger stitch, which I think I'm actually going to make a larger stitch to kind of even it out, round it out. Yeah, because if I don't, it's just going to dip again. So while normally we would use the smallest stitch possible for a slip stitch to maintain that dip, we want to fill in that dip now. So I'm going to go into the dip and make a treble crochet, you know, my unique treble crochet, and make that nice and tall. So now it's a little bit more even with the rest of them, like that. And that's pretty much the idea. So you kind of want to make this whole row as round as possible, and then that's how you kind of round it out, by filling in that space, making sure that you don't add too much on top of this portion of the heart, because that's just going to continue the heart shape. You just kind of want to, again, even everything out. So from here, I'm just going to continue with the single crochets until I get to the dips at the bottom, and then I'll show you how adding the double crochets is going to work. And this is what it looks like so far. Super cute. Yeah. And again, it is going to be a little bit difficult to get into those stitches if you used a tighter stitch or a smaller yarn in the heart portion of the project, but it's not too bad, at least in my case. Okay, so now we're approaching the area where we need to add that extra space down here. So from here, I'm going to start making double crochet. So same thing, I'm going to go into every stitch, but this time I'm making double crochets inside every stitch, like this. And we'll see how that looks. See if my plan is working. And let's see. Yeah, that's kind of making it more round and filling it in. Yeah, okay. So we're going to continue the double crochet till this point, and then we're just going to do a single crochet, and then we're going to make the double crochets up until this point, and then it should be a little bit more rounded out. Not perfectly round yet. I think we need a couple more rows to make it more like properly round, but this is pretty good. It doesn't have to be perfectly round the first time. As long as we're starting to erase that heart shape, I think we should be good. So now we are approaching the point of the heart, where normally we would want it to be, to maintain that point. Now we kind of want to erase that point. So I made a single crochet, and now I'm going to continue on with the double crochets for the rest of this row until I get to the point where I started, which is right over there. So continue with the double crochets. I'm getting stuck. There you go. And then I'll show you what it looks like so far with just one row of the second color. Okay, so this is the last stitch of this row, and I'm just going to properly complete it by slip stitching into the very first stitch I made in this row. And this is what it looks like so far. So it's still a little bit of the heart shape overall, but much rounder than how it was originally. So I am going to continue with that pattern and make the smaller, stitches here, make one large stitch in the middle to kind of even it out a little bit more, and then the smaller stitches, then the larger stitch until we get to the point, then one small stitch, which is the single crochet, then the double crochet to this point again, and then it should be much rounder the second time around. But this is what it looks like after one row of the second color. Okay, so for the second row, I think I mentioned that we were going to do the exact same thing with the stitches, or it's going to be smaller stitches up here and then larger stitches down here, but I actually just did that and I don't like the way it came out. This bottom portion was just way too big compared to the top, so I'm just going to do a full row of single crochet. I think it's round enough so that just one row of the same stitch will make everything more even. So I started here and then just continued on. Oh, the only other stitch that I made was that one treble crochet right here in the middle, and then the rest of it was single crochet so far. So I am going to continue on with just another row of single crochet, only single crochet for every single stitch of the second row. So it should look a little bit better. I'll show you what it looked like when I did the double crochets as well. It looked a little wonky, so that's why I unraveled it and went back to do this instead. So hopefully this turns out a little bit better. But yeah, I'm just going to make single crochets all throughout the row. The only non-single crochet stitch that I made for this row was that dip in the heart right here. I just made another treble crochet on top of the previous treble crochet that I made in the first row of the white yarn. So now I'm approaching the first stitch of the second row. I'm just going to slip stitch into it right here, and voila, I am done. And yeah, that looks a lot better than the first one that I made. So yeah, you can already tell that it's way rounder. It's rounded out as opposed to the heart shape, which is exactly what you want. You want more of a round project for the earmuffs. And yeah, so now I'm going to do the exact same thing with this heart, and go ahead and add the white to the project. Then at this bottom section right here, I'm going to make double crochets, then single crochets, then a treble crochet, single crochets, then double crochets until I reach this point, and then that's just a single crochet. That's just for the first row of the white yarn. And then for the second row, I'm going to make nothing but single crochets throughout, except for this point. I'm just gonna make another treble crochet right here, and then more single crochets. And yeah, that's essentially how I'm going to make this one into this one, and then from there I will show you what the next step is. Okay, so now that I did the exact same thing to this one as I did for the first one, I'm going to show you what I did after I did the 2 rows, because this is the first one that I did, and you'll notice that it's nice and curved, and that's because I want a little bit of space in between the 2 pieces of the earmuff when I stuff it, so that's why I made a couple more rows to make it kind of curved and round. And the way I did that was by grabbing my project and then going into the second stitch of the slip stitch. So it's going to be really hard to see because of the yarn I'm using, it's so fluffy, but when you make a single crochet, there's like a little bit like of a V when you look at it from the top, and it's composed of like one loop and then a back loop, so like a front loop and a back loop. So I'm going to go into the back loop of every single crochet, and I'm going to make another single crochet. And again, it's super hard to see with the yarn that I have, but let me try and actually show you with this yarn. So let me go ahead and make some single crochets with this, and then I'll show you exactly what I mean. So as you can see, these are the single crochets, and you look at it from the top, there's a front loop as well as a back loop, and I'm going into this back loop right here. So I'm essentially doing this. So I'm going to go into the single crochet and go into this back loop right here, and then make a single crochet within that back loop only. So the front loop is still over here, and I'm only working with the back loop, and then for the next single crochet, I'm going into that back loop only, and I am making another single crochet on top of it. And it doesn't look like anything right here because it's just a tiny little example, but what that's essentially going to do is change the trajectory of where the stitches are. So instead of going around and around and it being flat, it's now going this way, which is the direction of the second, or like the back loop. So that's why it's going this way instead of like straight across. So it'll automatically make this shape if you continue working with the back loop only. So from here, I'm just going to figure out where the back loop is and then make a single crochet within it, and do that all around the entire project. So hopefully you're able to find where the back loop is with whatever yarn you chose, but mine is very difficult because of how fluffy it is. I'm just kind of guessing where it's at, and I think I'm getting it right, especially when you see like a little like divot right here. That's kind of how you know that it's working, and you probably won't be able to see it the first row, but I'm going to make 2 rows of this, and then we're going to move on to making the back portion of the heart, which is just going to be a circle. Like, you don't need to make another heart. It's essentially going to be like this, like that. You're going to put them together to make the earmuff, but again, you don't need the heart in the middle, and I would prefer it to just be a solid circle of just the squishy yarn. So I'll show you how to make that after I complete this. So again, all I'm doing is going into the back stitch of the single crochet and then making another single crochet on top of it. So from here, I'm just going to continue doing that for a total of 2 rows, and I will get back to you. Okay, so I went ahead and completed the second one, and now we have 2 half muffs. This is what it should look like once you put the 2 together, like this, nice and thick and cute, except one of them is just going to be a solid surface. You could, do hearts on both sides, like the part where you're going to put your ear on, but it's not really necessary. But I mean, if you want to do that, that's totally fine. I'm just going to keep it nice and solid. So after you have completed your 2 hearts and are ready to make the backing, you're going to grab your yarn And you're going to create a slip knot. Now you can start off with the magic ring again, since this is going to be a round project, but like I said in the beginning of this video, I do not like the magic ring. So all I do to begin a round project is I chain 2, then I go into the very first stitch that I created, and I make a single crochet. Whoops, it's a little bit harder with the thicker, fluffier yarn, but anyway, I make a single crochet. And then from there, I just continue going into that very first stitch with a double crochet now. And I'm still going into that very first stitch with a double crochet. And I'm going to make a total of 5 double crochets inside of the same exact stitch, just going around and around and around. So that was 2, 3, 4, and 5 double crochets inside of that one stitch, that very first stitch that I made. And then I'm going to complete this row by slip stitching into the first double crochet that I made in that row, and now I have a little round project. And I feel like that's easier to start a round project, but you can totally start it however way you want. If you prefer the magic ring, then totally use the magic ring. If not, then don't. So then for the second row, I'm going to chain 1 and then continue with my double crochets around the circle. But this time I need to start increasing, so every other stitch I'm going to make 2 double crochets per stitch. That way, again, the project does not start to curl because I am increasing, trying to make this project bigger and bigger as I go along. So for one stitch, I'm making 1 double crochet, and then for the next stitch, I'm making 2 double crochets per stitch, and so on and so forth. And then once I reach the very first stitch that I made for the new row, I'm going to slip stitch into it to complete the new row, and then just start all over again with that same pattern until the project grows bigger and bigger and bigger. And again, if it starts to curl in too much, you need to increase more often. If it starts to ripple too much, that means you need to increase less often. So yeah, I will see you after a few more rows. And this is after a few rows of following that pattern. So I'm just, again, alternating from making 1 double crochet per stitch to making 2 double crochets per stitch, and little by little you're going to grow your little round piece to the size of the earmuff. So this is how much I have left to go, and then after that I'm going to again do the couple rows of single crochet just at the back loop to make a little concave like this, and then we're going to slip stitch them together. But first we gotta make the back pieces. So again, I'm just going to continue on with that pattern until I get to the same size as the earmuff. Okay, so now that I've completed the back of the earmuff, again, all it was me going around and around and around in a circle. Every other stitch I would make 2 double crochets inside of one stitch, and then 1 double crochet inside the next stitch, and then 2 double crochets inside one stitch, and then so on and so forth, all the way around until I got to the point where I liked the size. And then once I was happy with the size, I added that little curve by going into the back portion of the single crochets and making 2 rows of that, similar or exactly the way I made it on these ones. So from here, we're going to attach the 2 together. Now, I think I forgot to mention that you're going to need some sort of stuffing for the earmuffs when I was telling you everything that you needed for this project. But yes, you're going to need some sort of stuffing. Now, I actually have a polyfill, like cotton or I guess polyester fill, and I got this at Hobby Lobby. I think it was like $3 for a big bag, and I'm going to use this to fill it. However, if you don't have anything like this or cotton or anything, you could totally use yarn to fill this, or maybe like some scrap fabric to fill it, whatever you feel would be good to kind of fluff it up and keep your ears warm. We're essentially going to attach these together with the cotton in between, but obviously it would be difficult to slip stitch these together with this in the way. So we're going to slip stitch them together, leaving a little opening, and then we're going to stuff it in there and then close the opening. So from here, we're going to go ahead and grab our projects. Then we're going to line them up to where we want to attach them to. And then we're just going to go through both of them and slip stitch them together like so. So I'm going to go through one stitch in one project and then the adjacent stitch on the second project and then slip stitch through them both. And now they are attached. And you're going to go all around the project doing that until you have about 2 inches worth of an opening, and then you're going to stuff the earmuffs with whatever stuffing you have, either cotton, polyfill, or scraps of yarn, anything else that you think that you could fill these earmuffs with. But yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and slip stitch my way all around the project until I have just that little opening. Okay, so now we're at the point where I only have this small opening left, so I went ahead and slip stitched all around the project, and this is what it looks like. A little wonky right now because it needs some shape to it, so I'm going to grab my stuffing and put it in the opening right here and check to see if that's enough stuffing. I don't want to overstuff it because I think it's going to look weird when I wear it, and I think just a little bit more should be good. Maybe like this much more, just so it's nice and full and could be evenly distributed without being too thick. I think that's a little too much. A little bit less. And okay, I think that should be good. Kind of want it a little bit flat, so I'm going to flatten it out. Yep, I think that looks great. So from here, I'm just going to finish off slip stitching them together. So I'm going to go find the loop I left off on, and then I'm going to continue. Uh-oh. The yarn was under the stitching. The stuffing. Then from here, I'm going to just continue slip stitching them together to seal off the earmuff. So again, go through one stitch on one project, then one stitch on the other project, and slip stitch them together, and continue doing that until it's all closed off. So just a couple more stitches and we should be good to go. So I think just this is the last one. And then from here, we can just go ahead and cut the yarn from the yarn ball. Make sure this is nice and even. And we have our very first earmuff. Yay! So we're going to go ahead and do the exact same thing with the other earmuff and make the back, then attach them, then stuff it. And then finally we can move on to the actual like headband, so you could wear these earmuffs. So I'll show you kind of a preview of what they're gonna look like. But yeah, super cute. And I'm gonna go ahead and do the exact same thing with this one. So I've completed the 2 earmuffs, and this is what they look like. They're so cute and squishy. I love the way that they feel. Again, I highly recommend that you get like a softer, thicker, squishier yarn for these because they feel so good, and they're super cozy. But anywho, after you have completed the earmuff portion of the project, it's time to move on to the headband portion so you could wear it. Now I got a pack of these headbands from Amazon, and they're just these very thin plain black headbands, but it's going to be great for supporting and structuring the earmuffs. So I'm going to use this as a base, but I'm going to of course cover it in yarn. So what I'm going to do is actually just make a couple rows of single crochet to widen it a bit, and then I'm going to wrap it around the headband and kind of make like a little sleeve for the headband. So from here I'm going to make a slip knot, then I'm going to put my hook within that loop, then I'm going to chain a chain that is as long as the headband. So let's see how long that is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. Let's go ahead and see if that matches the headband. So I think we need a few more stitches or a few more chains to go. Yeah, I think 43 is actually the perfect number of chains, at least for this size of headband. You could also use any old headband that you don't use anymore. And because of that, your headband size may be different, so you may need to make more or less chains than me. But for me, I'm just going to add an extra chain for good luck. So 44 chains total, and then I'm going to go back on this chain with a single crochet. So I'm just going to go back and make a single crochet within the chain that I created. So single crochet, just all along the chain with a single crochet. And again, I'm just going to make a few rows of single crochet back and forth on this project, and eventually it's going to be just wide enough to wrap around the headband and again serve as a little sleeve for the headband. It's going to be totally covering the headband. So this is what the project looks like so far. Again, I'm going to make a few more rows so it could totally wrap around the headband, and then I'm going to slip stitch the two ends together so it totally encompasses the headband and you won't see any of the black anymore. It's just going to be all white and fuzzy and cute and comfy. And then from there we just attach it to the earmuffs and we are good to go. So I'll let you know what I do at the end of the row, but essentially I'm just going to be making single crochets all along this chain here. Voila. So I will meet you at the end. So this is what the project looks like with one row of single crochet. So once I get to the end of the row, I'm going to make sure that I go into the very last stitch of the row. Then I'm going to chain one, flip the project over, then go into the very first stitch of the new row and continue on with single crochets. And I'm just going to be making another row of single crochet on top of the previous row of single crochet, and then repeat the process. When I get to the end of the row, I'm going to chain one, flip the project over, and then go into the very first stitch of the new row and create my new row of single crochet. And this is what the project looks like with some single crochet on top of the previous row of single crochet. And I'm just going to make it wide enough so that it completely covers the headband, and I can wrap it around like this and slip stitch the ends together to make a little sleeve for the headband. So I'm probably going to be making like 4 rows total by following those steps. So I will see you once I'm done. Just follow the same pattern, make rows and rows of single crochet, and then I'll show you how I put it all together. Okay, so this is what my project looks like after I've completed all the rows of single crochet, and now I can wrap it around the headband like so. So it could serve as a little sleeve. To make it the little sleeve though, we need to put the two ends together like this and slip stitch them. So I'm going to go ahead and start that off by aligning them where I want them to be attached to, just folding it over like this, and then slip stitching into one side of the project and then into the other side of the project, and then slip stitch them together. Then one side of the project, go into the other side of the project and slip stitch them together. And you're going to be left with a little opening to put the headband in afterwards, so you don't have to worry about putting it in right now. You could just do that afterwards. So I'm just going to continue slip stitching down this entire project until I get to the end. So I'm just going to continue folding it like this and then slip stitching them together until I get to the end right here, and it's all one giant sleeve. So I will see you once I am done slip stitching the two ends together for this project. Okay, so now that I have completed attaching the two ends together, I cut the yarn from the yarn ball, and now I'm going to seal the project by bringing the excess yarn through the last loop and giving it a tug. Then I'm going to tuck it away so it is out of the way, out of sight. And then I'm going to put the headband through this little sleeve that we created. So this is what the sleeve looks like. And now I'm going to grab my headband and kind of guide it through the sleeve like this. Oh, that's actually easier than I thought. Actually, never mind. It got stuck right here. So again, try and guide it through to the other side. And there we go. So now we have a little sleeve for the headband, and we essentially have a new headband now. So this is the new headband. And what we're going to do is now sew on the earmuff to each end of the headband. And you can attach them using yarn, and you could just slip stitch them together like this, but personally I like to sew them, so I'm going to grab a needle and thread and just sew them together right here. But again, you could use yarn if you'd like and do the same thing just with your hook. Just bring the yarn through with your hook, go through the earmuff and through the headband portion, and then just slip stitch them together all along right here until they're nice and attached. I'm going to do these essentially the same thing but with the needle and thread. Okay, so I went ahead and grabbed my needle and thread, and now it's time to attach these earmuffs to the headband. So what I'm going to do is first attach my needle to the headband with a knot at the end of it so it stays there. And then I'm going to align the headband to the earmuff. I want to leave about this much space for it to be attached to, because if it's attached at the very end of the headband, it's going to be all dangly. So I kind of want there to be more support. So I'm going to attach it about right here, make sure that it's aligned with the heart. And then from here, I'm going to put my needle through the headband as well as through the earmuff. And then I'm just going to sew it together. And again, if you don't want to use a needle and thread and you rather just use yarn for the entire project, you could totally do this using your yarn and your hook. It's just going to be a little bit more difficult. And once you have attached everything together, then you are completely done with the earmuffs. Woohoo! And now you can go ahead and rock them this winter. And yeah, so thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, found it interesting, entertaining, or helpful, please get a big thumbs up before you go. And if you love crochet, I have so many crochet videos ranging from tutorials to styling to crochet with me's and crochet ideas and so much more. Go ahead and check out the rest of my channel for more videos. And don't forget to click that red subscribe button if you have not already, so I can see you next time. Bye, and have a magical day.